Hi there, welcome to this video. So in this video, I want to be showing us how to place a floating object and a tiled object into another floating object. So let's just get started. Now I have a floating container on my dashboard in Tableau, and I'm going to place this floating object and tiled object into it. So how do I do that? So to place the tiled object into the floating container, all I need to do is to click on that tiled object. Again, the concept of tiled means it is fixed to a particular location on your dashboard, so it's not floating around. And floating in its own case can be moved around any location. It's not tied to a fixed location on the dashboard. So let's move this tiled object into this floating container. So I will click on the tiled object and drag it over the floating container until its border turns blue, which indicates that I'm inside the floating container. So I'm going to release the mouse to drop. As you can see that the tiled object is inside, and to confirm, all you need to do is to double click on the tiled object so that you have the floating container highlighted, and you can move it around. You can see the tiled object moves along with the floating container. So the next thing I will do is to ensure that I put this floating object in the floating container. So if I do it the way I did for tiled objects, there is no action taking place. So to do that, I'm going to click on the floating object and over the floating container, then hold down my shift key, and you can see that the borders of the container is highlighted. So I'm going to release the mouse and it goes into it. So again, you must make sure you are over the floating container and press down your shift key. To confirm again, I'm going to double click and move around the floating objects. You can see that they are all inside there and not outside of it. So again, you can't have floating over floating because both of them will keep floating. So these two objects are turned into tiled objects inside the floating container. And to release any of these objects, all you need to simply do is to click on it and come to the drop down menu and click on floating, and it releases from the container and you can move it away from it. I hope you find this video helpful. Thank you for watching.